Hello, everybody. This is Peter Joseph Hernandez, and I'll be covering the Alamo Area Monthly chapter meeting, October 2024. And the topic for this meeting is iNaturalist Essentials for Texas Master Naturalists and Reporting Projects and Bioblitzes and more. So let's get started. Agenda. What are the changes to the VMS field research iNaturalist, FR iNaturalist scenarios? I'll cover 3 scenarios: iNaturalist projects and Bioblitzes differences, chapter approved projects and Bioblitzes. What are they? iNaturalist bulk uploads and bulk editing will be covered here. A little advanced training from what you may have learned. And most of all, this video will be AT approved or advanced training. It was approved by the Alamo chapter board, and it is something you could charge your time to as AT. But before I get started, let me just level set real quickly. I am not the VMS coordinator or administrator or anything to that effect. Any questions to VMS should be addressed by either Nancy or Jeanette. And if your last name ends with A or through L, contact Nancy. If your last name ends with M through Z, contact Jeanette. So those are the 2. I am not the administrator. Any questions on VMS, please contact them and not me. The purpose of why I'm here is to really cover iNaturalist and how it's impacting us as master naturalists. So what are the changes? VMS FR changes. If you were paying attention in August and attended the board meeting, you would have heard one of the VMS administrators had a question about how we're charging time on VMS for iNaturalist. The board took it to created an ad hoc committee to review this process and came back September 10th with recommendations. And the recommendations were effective October 1st. Hence, this why I'm covering it today as part of the October meeting. So if you missed it and didn't see it, this is basically what it said. Effective October 1st, volunteer service hours reported in VMS for reporting iNaturalist hours. Observations will no longer be based on minutes per observation. Instead, time will be based on actual time spent making observations, and it will be no longer necessary to list the number of observations or species in VMS. Ooh, so that's a big change on what we've been doing for the last couple of years, I believe. And so we are basing it on your time spent out there, not looking at observations or species. So here's a good example, real quick synopsis. You spent 1 hour solely making observations, iNaturalist observations on a nature hike or at a BioBlitz. You report that 1 hour in VMS plus travel time. So the VMS description must include the approved chapter project, and we do have approved chapter projects in iNaturalist that we want us to use, or a BioBlitz, an approved BioBlitz, and I'll cover those, and the location of the observation. So what natural area were you at? Okay, so that's just the basic of what's going on. So what are we kind of saying? You're there to solely make iNaturalist observations. So you went out with the intention to make observations. So a note from my perspective, this is VMS, it's requiring you to report one approved chapter project and where you were at. But in iNaturalist, as master naturalist, let's keep in mind that one observation could go to many projects. And we should be cognizant of that. If those many projects fit the requirement, we can contribute to those other projects. And it behooves us to do that. I do hear a lot that, hey, my projects are not, or my observations are not being looked at real quickly. Well, I will tell you, sometimes if they do fit other projects, whether approved or not, it may make your observations a lot quicker to be observed and identify what it is and go to research grade. So that's just my observation. Um, and also just what are approved projects. We'll cover it later, but real quick, you know, uh, projects that are approved by this chapter are if it is a TPW or a Texas Nature Tracker project or BioBlitz, yes, it is. It is covered more than likely. I'd say 100% of the time. Um, Created projects or BioBlitzes that are approved by our partners or by our chapter, part of our chapter projects. So those are okay. So that's a quick summary. So if it falls into that category, the probabilities that you will have it correct when you go to VMS. Um, okay. Again, I will get into more detail on that. So what are some of the observation expectations that we have? And this I hear a lot, especially when we do bioblitzes and projects, and what are the expectations of us, master naturalists. And there is some differences between the public expectation and the Texas Master Naturalist um, observations. We are in mind, keep in mind, we're doing citizen science work, field research work. So these are the criteria that we try to withhold. And all these that I'll be pointing out are referenced in a state level document. This is nothing that is a chapter or a committee that came up with. We just drove back to this document that was at a state level and say, we're going to follow the state level documentation. And that's basically what we're doing here. So meet the criteria of verifiable observations is number one. It's kind of a general broad statement. What are verifiable observations in? You may be saying, it must have sound or photographic evidence. That's obvious. Um, but in our iPhones, and they do have when you're making an observation through an iPhone, it does say no media. You really don't want to make an observation with no media. So that is requirement number one, is to have some evidence there. One thing that's obvious, it's not on the records, is record proper date and time. Also, make sure that you have the true accuracy. A lot of times when we do by camera, it's not some cameras do not, I'd say majority, especially mine, don't have geolocating like our iPhones or our smartphones do. So make sure you're pinpointing where you were pretty much by it, and make sure your accuracy is within less than 500 meters, which is roughly about 547 yards, roughly. So that's 5 football fields, basically, that you should keep your accuracy down for that observation. And honestly, that is a very big zone. I do have a double asterisk there, and what I'm trying there, make sure that your accuracy not only falls into that 500, less than 500 meter. Also, if you're working on a project, make sure that that accuracy falls within that project geographic boundaries. That is very important, because if it does fall out, whether it's less than 500 or 100 meters or 50 meters, if you're right on the border of that project and you go over, that will not count for that project. Again, it's the accuracy for that project. What is to be in the boundaries. So that's just a tidbit there. Also, we want to make sure that we focus on wild organisms in Texas. So we're really talking about Texas, only wild organisms with the emphasis of species of greater conservation need, um, and or species of management interest or and concern. So if you have some interest in other uh, species that fall into the approved projects, please uh, feel free to make observations on that. And all these um, are basically what you should be doing your VMS hours on. So when you go out to spend an hour or so on iNaturalist, you're not doing cultivated or captured uh, organisms. So you're basically keeping it wild. Also, a couple of things. Observations must be shared with TNT projects or other projects approved by the chapter. Uh, that's a given. Uh, again, that's part of your observation time that you're doing and you're accounting for. Time spent using iNaturalist in one own property cannot be counted as service hours. So um, I do a lot of observations on my property, but I do not count them as service hours. Uh, but feel free to do that on your own time. I like enjoying doing that and discovering stuff that's on the property that I might not know. Or so I'd say a good 30%, 40% of my time is coming to iNaturalist based off my property, but I'm not charging time to it. Uh, but you can't organize a survey on private property where results are shared with Texas Nature Tracker host projects or approved projects. That's perfectly fine. So we'll get into an example of that. And what is the minimum time to report is 15 minutes. So um, if you go out walking the dog and you decide to take some observations and it's more than 15 minutes and uh, your dog is not reactive, and you have that time and you want to report it, go for it. That is totally up to you. But the minimum time is 15 minutes. That was a leeway that the state did have for chapters. Our chapter decided to keep what the state lowest level, which was 15 minutes increments. Okay, some tips. So we're talking about iNaturalist, basically some tips when you're in the remote place with no cell service. Turn off your automatic upload and AI. If you can't get service, don't let it spin, or even if it's weak, 1 bar. I turn mine off, even at 2 bars. Uh, I will not let it uh, do its thing. I would put into turn off those functions in the settings, and you should be able to find those settings real easy. Um, and it goes to a save mode. So save mode just keeps it on your phone, and when you're ready to send it, uh, you could send it. But if you did turn it off, make sure that you don't send up unknown observations. So unknown observations kind of go into a separate bucket, and it takes a little bit longer to get those identified unless somebody's actually going in there and looking at unknowns. But unknowns, uh, hopefully, when we're in a good network, we go back to our save mode observations and tag them again, edit, go in there and edit and do the AI or type in if you know what the observation is. So don't send up unknowns because it does put it in another bucket, which is hard to be, doesn't get identified. Put it into a kingdom like the plant kingdom, animal kingdom is at least better than leaving it unknown. Another tip, uh, make sure include if you have a still camera making observation, include uh, time spent uploading uh, your observations from your camera up to iNaturalist through iNaturalist.org and submitting those. Okay, but be very when I say that, if you're going in and watermarking and doing a lot of other stuff, uh, changing the lighting or something, that's really on your own time. Or watermarking uh, your your photographs, that's on your own time. But really bringing it down, uh, putting it in a folder, getting it ready to iNaturalist, and uploading it, and then spending time in iNaturalist to process and send up. That is totally okay. Um, and tips for camera users again: be familiar with bulk uploads via iNaturalist, and I'll be doing an example at the very end on how I bulk upload my pictures from the camera. Okay, so let's get into scenarios. So scenarios, if you're watching this video, you could hit the pause button. I want everybody to take a quiz. Here's a url.com AAMN dash October 2024 dash poll. Uh, and while you're doing that, you can use a QR code or type it in and take the quiz. But I want to focus over here where folks are doing that. Uh, this quote comes from a ruler that Texas Nature Tracker was passing out part of training. It was something that if you went through their training process, they would give you this ruler. And one of the things that I kind of like this quote saying, uh, discovering populations and documenting change. A lot of times I'll hear people say, "Hey, I'm taking a picture of the same plant in different locations. I feel like I'm just repeating myself." Uh, that's perfectly fine because we're discovering populations and somebody in the background, the back end, PhD, uh, doing their dissertation, or a biologist or environmentalist may be looking at that at a different light that we may not know and come to some conclusions. So it's good to always think about we're discovering populations and documenting change. Okay, with that said, we're going to get into the scenarios. Scenario number one, a family hike. So you go on a family hike at Government Canyon. Along the way, you take photographs of a butterfly, a monarch butterfly that's feeding on nectar. So you take two snapshots using your iNaturalist app, and then you share that two observations, and the entire process takes about 5 minutes. What should it be? Your choices are either A, B, C, and D. Hopefully you went through the polling. So the answer is C. Naturally, you record your time and you don't record time in VMS is none. It's less than 15 minutes increments. So don't record that. But don't shy away from me as an iNaturalist. Don't shy away popping out that phone and taking pictures of a monarch sitting there. Uh, to me, that's common. It's a habit now. Whether I record the time or not, especially less than 15 minutes, I don't worry about it. But I do worry about making sure that I do have a proper photograph of that species, date and time, location. I'll use my AI if I'm not aware of what it is. Um, or it'll type faster than I can, and then submit that. No action is really, uh, uh, no action is required if I've joined these collection projects like Alamo Area Master Naturalist, uh, Biodiversity, or the Government Canyon project. So uh, that is automatic, so I don't worry about uh, tagging that because it is a collection project and not a traditional project. But on the flip side, I do know that Government Canyon is on the Great Texas Wildlife Trail project, and you have to go in and tag that, and then put on the field ID under place of observation. You do have to tag that as HOT 085, and that's just something that is done with that traditional project. if you're familiar with that. So some traditional projects will need you to go in and tag that. So the emphasis here on this scenario was it's less than 15 minutes. Uh, don't worry about it. Uh, Basically, in a nutshell. Okay, scenario number two. You're a docent, and you're volunteering for the San Antonio River Authority Bird Watch Nature Walk at Confluence Park, and you spend 2 hours spotting birds, identifying bird calls, plus uh, uh, you traveled there for a good distance, and then during the walk you make 15 observations, uh, and you assist others in making iNaturalist uh, identifications that were unknown on unknown plants. So how should you do it? A, B, or C, or D? Okay, and the answer is C. And when you record your time in VMS, record your 2 hours that you spent doing there. You were there to do docent work, so that would be TR. Don't record your uh, your observations as FR, uh, whether splitting that 2 hours into an hour and 30 minutes and 30 minutes on the other. Just put it all to TR, the 2 hours, because that is your intention of being there at Confluent. But on the flip side, on actions in iNaturalist, again, you want to ensure that it's a verifiable data, identify the photos or make sure the photos are identifiable. Um, Use the AI if necessary, date and time, uh, and location. Uh, and also, if you're doing collection projects like the Alamo Area Master Naturalist Bioblitz, perfectly fine. You've joined it's there. But you're in the San Antonio River, uh, and there are some traditional projects there you're aware of, like the San Antonio Mission Reach is one. If you're at Confluence, it's part of that. If you're in Bexar County, Wilson or Carnes or Goliad, that's all part of the San Antonio watershed. So you could contribute to those traditional projects. So those you would have to manually go in and tag those. I will show you how to bulk those. If you haven't in the past, uh, you could bulk those to that project. So the scenario here is to emphasize that your intent is to go do docent work, even if you spend some time doing some iNaturalist within that docent time. Uh, that's also applies to NPA or Nature Public Access if you're out there uh, pulling out on a salsa squad or pulling out invasives or doing a walk for Native Plant Society uh, as another TR uh, or doing advanced training. And that's your intentions of going out there and you do some iNaturalist, charge it to your intended observations. So please, please ensure that you log your VMS hours according to the original intent of volunteer commitment. Okay. And not to say, I know, looking at the chat, somebody's going to say, well, I did go for my 2 hour intended one. Everybody left and I continued doing, I went out and did some more iNaturalist stuff. Okay. That is now your intent has changed and it's now changed to iNaturalist. If you spend another hour out there, great. That's an hour to iNaturalist, FR, but it wasn't doing uh, your TR or your docent work. Okay. Hopefully I belabored that one a little bit more, a little bit too much, but hopefully it gets through. Okay, here's another one, scenario number three. I'm going to go down the breakdown rather than go through the summary, just as to conserve time. Um, the breakdown of time is you spend 2 hours at Toyota total, and plus your travel time. That was your intent to go to a Bioblitz. You spend 15, and part of that Bioblitz up here, you take pictures with your iPhone and your camera, and uh, you have those 2 hours. So you now go home, you download uh, observations from your camera, and it takes you about 15 minutes to go from your camera to put it into a folder. You delete all the ones that were bad shots, but you end up with shots that are pretty good, and you organize them into that folder, and you're ready to get it uploaded. But before you upload, you probably spend another 30 minutes watermarking, putting your copyright stamp on there, separating. You may have taken personal pictures from that event, and you put them somewhere else, and you may also have other personal photos on your camera. All that is taken into consideration as not time spent, but you're also spend another 15 minutes when you get into iNaturalist.org, you hit the upload, you spend another 15 minutes in the application uploading and time stamping or making sure the date and time accuracy and species, what you saw was updated. The total time was 3 hours spent, plus your travel. So what you should do, A, B, C, or D? And the answer is C. Yes, record time in a BPMS, 2.5 hours, and that includes 2 hours at Toyota. You spend technically about a half hour in 0.5 or 30 minutes at home, updating and sending up the observations you made through your camera and your travel time. So in recording it, you would put Toyota Texas Pollinator Garden, your location, and you're participating in the Texas Pollinator Bioblitz. And also you contributed to the bird of Texas. So that's optional, but you really need that one project and your location for VMS. But on the flip side, on iNaturalist, ensure that you're, again, verifiable photos. They're all wild. And you make sure that you identify the species, the date and time, accuracy, location, and so forth. You've also had pre-join your Texas Bioblitz, Pollinator Bioblitz, and those that were tagged as birds, you went back and tagged them because it's a traditional project. And optional, Toyota does have their own project. It's not an approved project, but yes, you could participate in that project itself. So make sure if you do, I do know that the garden area is very close to the boundaries, the boundaries are if you're familiar with that area, Medina River, their fence line kind of borders that. If your accuracy goes beyond that, it will not be generated towards that project. So in this scenario, we're trying to point out that yes, time spent with uploading your camera for iNaturalist is okay, as long as you segregate your personal stuff from that camera, and you're not watermarking or copywriting, making things special for that photo. It's just the observations were made and uploaded and tagged and submitted. Okay, so those are the three scenarios that we have. So let me get into the exception. Now, this is something that we kind of found when we were doing the ad hoc reporting, and that ad hoc reporting was, we found that Camera Trap Loan Project, which is a chapter project, had in that state document also addressed this field research. And on that field research, these were the activities that were pointed out, and part of our members was Kimon Wood, and Kimon, he's the fuzzy guy on the left. He is a project leader for this. And one of the things that on that state document was, and I'll just point it out because there's a lot of activities that they do, organize, collect data, and upload to the appropriate TNT project. And that's all it said in our state document. But where the TNT projects are basically mammals, the only way they collect the data is through iNaturalist. So basically what was happening was they were doing these other activities and they were charging to iNaturalist field research separately. But if we read the document and we all in agreement that all that time will be going to camera trap loan project. If you're in this project, Kimon is the leader again. He does training. Our training is being done to participate. These are loaner cameras, I believe from the Texas Parks and Wildlife and from the city. So those are the two organizations that they're monitoring camera traps. Very interesting project. Again, that has its own separate field research. And with that said, let's talk about projects and Bioblitzes. Something that I think we don't really have time to cover when we're doing a training, or we need to review that. But before we go that, let me do a little quick commercial about Bioblitzes that are occurring. And these are all approved Bioblitzes in the chapter. We do have this month, Texas Parks and Wildlife, Texas Pollinator Bioblitz. It's a statewide event. There's the link to all the information about it on their website. It's a fun Bioblitz. It happens every year. I forget how many years it's been in progress. I thought it was 9, but I think it's a lot longer than I'm thinking. It is from October 11th through the 27th, and that's normally the same time every year. Also, that's kind of coming back every year, and I know I've participated in this one for the last 3-4 years. The Native Plant Society of Texas, they are a partner. They do 1 week in October. It's normally like the 3rd week of October from Sunday to Saturday. It's a BioBlitz, and this one is basically BioBlitzing on plants, where this one up here in Texas Pollinators is naturally plants and pollinators. So that's interesting to do. And then also you have the San Antonio River Authority does one in the month of September. I think this year was the 2nd year that they've done it. They're starting to participate and make that their one of their BioBlitzes for the year. And it's in conjunction with Parks for Pollinators BioBlitz. It is sponsored by the National Recreation Parks Association. It's a national BioBlitz, and San Antonio River Authority are the only ones that I know in Bexar County currently that are participating. Other parks in the area are not, that are in our area. So this one requirement is that you have to take observations in their parks and all this, and that's to support the native in our PA BioBlitz. So the idea of this BioBlitz is those that are members of this in our PA normally take observations in their parks, and that's what they do for the month of September from the 1st to the 30th every year. So next year it'll be the same. And also the one that is near and dear to my heart is the City Nature Challenge. It is a chapter approved project. It is the last week of April, Friday through Monday. Check that out. We do have our own website for that, cnc-sa.org. And next year, the April 25th through the 28th is the BioBlitz. It is very big. It's becoming bigger and bigger every year in San Antonio and across the state, and across the country, and across the globe. This is a global event. As you could see, these are the 4 major approved Bioblitzes that we do have in the chapter that we enjoy doing, and just keeping our focus on providing data, field research for environmentalists, biologists, and our #1 supporter, Texas Parks and Wildlife. And also, we do have Bioblitzes and new class trainings. That's happens during their training class. Okay, so that is enough for my little spiel on different Bioblitzes. So it gets back to types of projects, and this is something that confuses a lot of people, but once you get it, you got it. Data collections in at an observation level. So I'm talking observations. You make your observations, and what are the impacts to projects? So, you heard me talk about projects that are collections, and there's basically, when a collection project is built, there's the administrator who builds it has several ways of administering it. It could be geolocation sensitive, where they're just, anybody within that location that takes an observation uh, based on their other requirements of taxa, and so forth. Uh, it's sensitive to that. Now, will that person, does it collect automatically? Yes. Does that person know that they're being collected if they don't join it? No. So uh, as long as, I have a, a collection project, and it's called the Greater San Antonio Area Biodiversity Project. We have visitors to the San Antonio area that come in and take observations. I collect all those observations to this project, or this project collects all those. But if you want to see it on your observations and you join it, then you'll see it on your observation itself. Uh, but again, this is based on geolocation sensitivity, okay, and based on the other requirements. Uh, another type of collection project is members only. An administrator can set it to, uh, let's say, I don't want to collect people that are just visiting a certain location. You could now sense it to, okay, you got to join this project, and you tell people that you want to make collection, uh, you want to contribute. You tell them to join it, and they join it by going in and looking at the initial project face or home uh, page, and up on the right hand corner should be join, or on your iPhone or your smart device, you could see a join for that project. Um, and now once you join it, uh, does the project auto collect? No, until you join it. Uh, so does it show up on your observations automatically? No, until you join it again. So you join it once, you're in. But if you never join it, it's a no as far as getting to that project. So here's a good example. If you participated in the City Nature Challenge community projects, where we built different projects for uh, the River Authority, the Chase Bank, for uh, the universities, and all that. Those were all members only. So if you went to City Nature Challenge um, and you belong to UTSA, you had to join that project in order for your observations to count to that project. So that's members only. Uh, Projects collections, uh, where an admin must include you. So here, somebody has to physically, the admin has to add you to it. Uh, so that data will never be collected until you're included. Uh, your observations will not show up with that project unless you're included. And once you're included and you join the project, you could be included and you never join it, and it doesn't show on your observations. So here's a good example is the Alamo area. Our Alamo area, Texas Master Naturalist Biodiversity Project, which is different from the greater San Antonio one, which is more of a public. This is more our own individual chapter project. So how do we exclude people that just want to join it because they see it? Well, we only include master naturalist to this, and you got to register for that. Another good example, Gary runs the new class projects, and he requests an email from them to send him the ID, and then once they send him the ID, he includes them. Okay, so these are two uh, projects that are administered, and you must put in your ID. Now, I do get a lot of questions. I'll repeat this again. I go ahead and include somebody, but they never join that project, and they say, "Well, I'm not in that project." So they always send another request. But what's happening is they're looking at their observations and not at at the project level. At the project level, they'll see their observations are on there, but their own individual observations, they're not until they join it. Okay, so that's the difference between the two columns. So, and roughly, again, Bioblitzes, it's really a start and stop time. And we kind of covered that in the last thing. You saw the date, start and stop. And those could also have uh, these these geolocation sensitive members only, and admin include. So, in a Bioblitz. Okay. And then the other one that really throws folks off is what are traditional projects? I really think that traditional projects are somewhere in 2018, it changed. There was an update and collections were introduced back in 2018. A lot of the old projects before that are called traditional projects. You must join those projects or be invited. And once you're invited, you got to accept that invitation, and then your data will collect to that project. And but the thing about that, when you make an observation, you manually have to always tag each one. A good one is the mammals of Texas. You have to join it, and then uh, also every time you see a mammal observation, you you have to tag it to that one. And I'll do an example of that. And then the umbrella project, no matter what any of these are, you could collect all the data into one project, and it's kind of neat to see an umbrella project. It there is no it does depending on the project, it does not uh, auto collect. That's a no if the project is not on the list. It has to be on the list, and then it follows those requirements. And then also, you have to join it if you want to see it on your observations. But here's a good one that's an umbrella project. It's called the Master Naturalist, Texas Master Naturalist. That is something that all the chapters in state of Texas are umbrella to. So this project over here is umbrella to this project, and so is the Limheimer, the Guadalupe, the Hill Country, the Capital chapters. They're all umbrellaed in here. So that's a neat one to go see where we stand as a chapter in observations. Okay, so let me quickly talk about uh, project requirements because I do get a lot of questions on why certain things are not happening, and it's just a matter of looking at the requirements sometimes and to understand. Besides the projects, understand how the projects are built by the admins. Also, is to understand uh, these fields. So we do have for example, the Texas pollinator BioBlitz I kind of mentioned. This has different attributes versus the City Nature Challenge one. Totally different attributes. And these are some of the triggers. The taxa and the BioBlitz for the pollinators might, like I said, has bees, plants, pollinating, butterflies, anything, moths that are pollinating our plants, and that's what they tag the taxa. Uh, and where the City Nature Challenge is any organism. So locations, a geofence of a project. So just where, the fence of that, and normally it's a defined place in iNaturalist. And then also there's users. You could default to any users. Um, that's, or you could have them be members, or you have to include them, and so forth. Uh, and then projects, this is a checkbox, only displays if this box is checked, it's members only. People have to join the project in order to be counted for. Okay, and then quality grade, and this is something going back to one of our earlier slides. You know, uh, is it research grade? Is it needs ID, or is it casual? Okay, I do know that our chapter biodiversity project, our Alamo area, we make it research grade and needs ID. We we don't include casuals. I do have a recommendation from the committee for the next class that we stop using casuals as our BioBlitz. Yes, we do have City Nature Challenge and the Texas uh, Pollinators BioBlitz that have used casuals, but these are public uh, BioBlitzes, and we want the public to get involved. So involvement, I think, trumps kind of what we're looking for: species of greater conservation needs, wild. So that's very, very important for us to just try to focus on that. Again, I'm not trying to discourage people from doing casual observations. I do casual observations, but I do not count them as part of my field research for iNaturalist. I do it for uh, identifying plants in my yard or keeping up with what I've done in my garden, whether, all my, from moringas to turmeric and whatever I'm growing, uh, that's perfectly fine, but it's not counted. And neither is anything on my property. So, um, with that said, um, again, type media, you could do uh, pictures, sound, both. I do know that there's several city projects that are only doing sound. They're echolocating bats and so forth. That's all they want to do. So that's perfectly fine. They want no pictures. So uh, that's it. But normally they're both. Most projects are both. And then date and time for BioBlitzes. If you leave it blank, it's an ongoing. If you put a range, it is what we call a BioBlitz. And lastly, established. This is something that I totally had forgotten about, but there is a field indicator for, if you just want to track natives or plants that were introduced. So that's very important. A good one is like the passion vine, uh, uh, the scarlet passion vine, which is it was uh, it was considered introduced, and now it's part of the native. That was something that got changed. So uh, that is very important. So these are the field requirements that an admin, when they set up a project, that we should be aware of when we're looking at projects and wanting to know why our observations are not going into that project. Okay, so what are the approved projects? What can we use? So these are basically the approved projects. There's 12 projects over here. The Texas Nature Tracker, like the herps of Texas, the birds of Texas. There's many more. I do know that talking to Craig, that some of these will be changing. I think the bees and wasps of Texas will be changing. Rare plants and so forth. And I think the eagle's nest will be also uh, so these projects will be changing. They will still be open uh, to us to add to, but they want us to refocus on other projects. So here's a list of again some of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Nature Tracker projects. So you saw over here, we talked about the BioBlitzes that they produced. All the state parks are ongoing. Uh, and then the Great Texas Wildlife Trail is also Texas Parks and Wildlife project that we have endorsed as a chapter project. Also, approved projects of our partners, just going down the list, COSA, Headwaters. In there, there's no project, but there's a place that's perfectly okay because they're a partner. The Audubon, the Mitchell Lake, and so on. I won't go all the way down. The Whitty has one. And here's a complete list. Let me see if I could bring that up real quick. And go through that whole documentation. Nope. Nope. Let's go here. Let me bring it up. There it is. So the Alamo area. This is the Alamo area Master Naturalist approved project summary. Here's all the projects. Again, more detail on this list. I do show if it's a chapter project or is it Audubon project, Bexar County. Those are all partners. So these are all our partners, and it does show whether it's a collection or a traditional. Is it a public? Is it wild only? Yes. Wild only, both. So those are all the requirements for that. We should be just doing wild as far as counting. In page 2, some of our partners don't have projects, but their place is also okay. If you go to iNaturalist, hit place, a good example, at least last time I checked, it's not necessary to have a true project, but if you have a place in iNaturalist, it will show because they use place. If you ever notice, use place to whatever shows up in place goes to their website also. So that's why they keep it that way. There's some additional notes about it, about just different references. Now, I just want to get down to this page 4. A lot of people are asked, why are my observations not being identified very easily? One of the things I would say is maybe if you add the certain projects, people in those projects are looking for data, and they want to identify the observations in their projects. So the more projects I say you could connect to for that observation, the more people will automatically be looking at it because they'll hit their projects, like Mammals of Texas. If you don't have connected to Mammals of Texas, it may take a little bit longer for that white-tailed deer to be identified faster. I do know that, birds of Texas, if you do a cardinal, cardinals get identified in seconds. But again, it is a traditional. It says here collection question mark, but it's actually a traditional. It is approved chapter project. Just one other note that I'll say is there's some other ones like Ants of Texas. If you're into ants, it's a professor, PhD professor. It's not an approved project, but if you're interested in ants, I'm interested in ants because they're something I do have at this end, but still contribute. You'll have people on that site that will identify things a lot faster if you just leave it blank. So there's a whole litany of different taxa projects that are occurring throughout the state, and I keep it through the state. One big note, red flag that I have, hopefully, I don't know if I need to make this bigger. There's a project and they use lowercase birds of Texas. That is a collection project. It's not a TPW, Texas Nature Tracker. It is an own project. I would not, if you don't know the curator or the admin, I would probably stay away from it. and not go to that one. But the one that we're really talking about, just like in other places, this is the correct one, the Birds of Texas. So if you click on that, it'll actually go to the Birds of Texas project, and that's the one you want to join. And there's a join to join that project. I do want to join that project, and I need to sign in. I'll do that later. So, but I can still contribute whether I join or not. Okay, so that's approved project summary for the chapter in a nutshell. Okay, let's talk about bulk uploads and bulk edits. This is something that if you have a camera or looking to get a camera, or you may have a camera trap or a camera on your bird feeder, wherever those you're getting your source. I've brought in security cameras, information that had picked up raccoons, and I will put it um, into iNaturalist. So the place you want to go is iNaturalist.org. This has more functionality than your smart device. Okay, and whatever you're using, your whatever whatever application or browser you're using, uh, it all works the same pretty much. And this is real quick. I'll go live in a bit. This is you'll see upload up there. Once you hit upload, you're drag and dropping the files, and you go to your file, your folder, you bring them in, and boom. So let me try to do a live real quick. Then I had a okay. So let me bring this file over. And here's my iNaturalist. I want to do an upload. Let's do a quick upload. And I've already choose my file like I was saying earlier. Um, and I already redirected it to a iNaturalist upload file. And I put for this lesson, I put training Zoom. So here's uh, some photos that I took at Mission Reach, and I'm going to highlight those by hitting my Shift key and my mouse click left and say open, and it automatically goes and opens those uh, pictures. Now, keep in mind, when I was over there, I did already deleted all the other ones that were, I probably took about 5-10 pictures of this bird flying through, but I eliminated them to 2. So I've already done that already. I'm not going to do it here. And likewise with the other observations I have on here. Likewise, I did have, did catches loggerhead shrike with a bumblebee. So I did crop that one to zoom in a little bit closer. Okay, so let's go through this. This loaded pretty quickly, which is awesome. Sometimes you'll see loading metadata, and it'll go through here very slow, depending on the size. I have right here, I don't want to submit the 22 observations as is, but I'm going to select all. And the first place I like to go to is location. Here's location. You could put in, we're at Acequia, uh, Acequia Park, and there's Mission Reach, Parkway. Yep, and I put it in, and boom. The other thing that you could do, and if you're going to this park a lot, you could also hit pin over here, and it'll actually pin that park and put it over here. So here's where I have a lot of observations. And me personally, if I like to put the park name that I'm at rather than because when you do it this way, the search sometimes it gives the address, or if you move it a little, you'll see that when you update it or update that, it goes to Stinson Airfield, which is to the left over here somewhere. Uh, so it changes it. So I tend to go back and change it back. Oops, change it back to, and just copy this over and bring it back down and update that. Okay, so most of my observations were in here. I'm still within less than 200 meters, which is awesome. So I'm going to just leave it right in that vicinity. Most of them were on that water, shooting from this direction, uh, right here. So if I were to pin it, let me just show you my pins. I have 44 pins, and you can see if I'm at Conroe or whatever, San Antonio, they're all pinned here, and I could just click on that, and it'll, let's say I would go to Calaveras, and it will automatically give me where I'm normally shooting from. And I can move it around. Again, it does show, oops, I did just slightly move it. Just go Cibolo Creek Ranch, and it'll automatically uh, show where I'm at. So that's pinning. But let me go back to Asakia Park. There it is. And boom, I'm back over here, a little bit different than when I typed it in. I'm going to go back over here. Observation. We're basically in this zone. And I'm still with 105 meters. It did change my location again, so I'm just going to copy paste that real quick. And boom, all these are in that location. Okay, so that's simple. The next thing I tried doing is, okay, I know this was a seagull going by or a gull going by, a ringbill. And if I'm not too sure what it is, I'll probably do identification on both. I do know it was a ringbill. I know it's coming up with something else. And I'll look at it real close. I think on the other picture, you'll see that it does have a little ring there, but you can uh, put those together. So I kind of, uh, when you do double things like this automatically before you do the AI, it'll only do it on the first one. So, and that's also with the smart devices. It's always the default picture that it does the AI on, not all the pictures. And that's a misconception. A lot of people think that it's doing the AI in all the pictures. Well, at least that's what I'm aware of. Okay, so here's another bird that was nearby, a double crested Cimarron, and these greaves. I do know this is a better picture, so I'm going to take that and move that over. And then this is a American Ringen, and I'm going to click that. And Cimarron was flying through it. I must have just pointed up my camera and shot at it with my camera, and double crested. And then here again is the double. So I'm going to move this guy over here. Just click on that, make it highlight green, the box, and boom, it's there. And then here, um, here's two different birds. It's same species. One's female, one's male. I don't have a problem making that northern shoveler. And then this is a northern shoveler also. This is the male, and I might mark male, and you can mark female. And there is a place in iNaturalist where you could actually tag those on there, but you cannot fields. Yeah, you can't do it here. I don't see that. But nevertheless, those are look too different. And I know I have two pictures of the same, and I just wanted to do this, that they were a couple, and I just put the two there. Um, some more cormorants flying through, and cormorant, and so just practicing shooting. I like to shoot birds in motion rather than on a wire, but this is still an American crestle. Uh, crestle. Um, he was on a wire down the road, and this this loggerhead. I know what it is, so I'm gonna put these guys together. Minus this. These three shots are really the same observation. I could highlight those three with my shift key and my left click pointer, and I could combine them, and I combine those into one. Oops, to three. There's the three, and then it'll tell me loggerhead shrike. Now here's a good example. I like to show the one, I'm really cluing in on this guy here, although I kind of sliced it three different ways and it came out this way. So I'll probably move this way because that's the better picture. And I'll move this one this way. And I know that's a Sonoran bumblebee. And boom, there you are. So do I have all my all my information that's make it verifiable? Yes. But I'm not finished yet. So I do know that all these are basically all birds. So I could do a quick uh, here to projects. And I have joined this project, Birds of Texas. So Birds of Texas is what I'm after. And and boom, all these should have Birds of Texas. So you could see if I pick any of them, you'll see a one there, Birds of Texas. Also, I do know that this is not a bird, so I want to probably go back, change that around, change it to bees. Bees come up, bees and wasp, and then eliminate that Birds of Texas because it's not a bird that I'm after. And even if you send it up as Birds of Texas, one thing I do like about iNaturalist, it will throw that project out if it doesn't meet its requirements. So this is a bee and not a bird. So it looks at categories also, and it will automatically throw out. But for the sake of this, I will do that. Another thing that I could do here is these are all in mission reach. So I that's another traditional project. So I could go here, um, mission reach, and there it is, San Antonio River Mission Reach, and they all get tagged as Mission Reach projects. It's also San Antonio River, San Antonio Watershed, and that's that. So if you're familiar with this park, now you could kind of see everything's there except if you look at, yes, I said I was by that water that I identified, but this this American Crystal is not, there's no wire line going through there. So I know that I'm not in the right place. It was basically, uh, power line back over here. All right, let me go back. That service the MROC, and also, it's a Sequoia Park. It's still in the, it's really in the Mission Reach Parkway. So I'm not in the actual park, so I'm going to eliminate that, update that. This loggerhead is not over water, so I'm going to highlight these two individuals, and we'll go back and correct that real quickly. And actually, I was at this little field here, and by the dock, and then it says Stenson again. I'll just put I am in the park. So boom, I'm all done. So that's how you do a massive upload. You could say uploads. Now I'm from 22 to 11, and I could submit those, and you could see it's going. And if you forget to put anything AI, one thing I do like about AI, date, time, if it ain't verifiable, it won't go. Now, this is training. And I just submitted them and they're going to observations. But let me just show you real quickly. I am going to come back and delete these. So they've now appeared in my edit observations. So I could go back and edit these observations. So another place, if you're not there yet, let's say you're at another page, always go and you want to go edit your observations. You go edit, and there they are. They're all uh, part of my observations already. And I need to delete these right away because I don't want them to count anywhere. But let me just show you real quickly. You could see the projects are all showing up here, and that's what I mean. When you join projects, they all start showing up uh, as part of that observation. But in most cases, you got to join that to show that they're there. Well, let me go back to edit my observations and delete those observations before people start looking at them and Okay, so let's edit my batch. And let me just go in real quick here and tag these 11. I wish you could do a keep your mouse down and it automatically highlight these. So all the way, these were all the birds. The first one was the ringbill, and then you got moths. So that was where I ended up here. So let me go in, and I've selected that, and I want to go here. So edit selected. Oops, let me go back. Edit selected. I did that wrong. Batch edit. Do this again. As you can tell, I don't normally edit, delete these. And delete selected. I overlooked that. And that's okay because these are just a training one, and it's thinking right there. Boom, we're back to normal, which leads me to the next slide. I know I just did a batch edit, but I want to get more intense on batch edit. So here's back to our PowerPoint. So bulk edits. Let's talk about bulk edits. You go to the dashboard, hit your edit observation search, and then your categories. Make sure that that's there. Batch edit, select, and then save. Caution. You really do a big damage if you don't do the right selections. You're having to go back and correct stuff. So let's just. I know birds of Texas was what I had on that PowerPoint. But I think I've cleaned that up. But let's just go to pick another traditional project, mammals of Texas. So I'm here. Um, First thing you want to do is do a search. Let's just search for mammals. And I want to make sure, I've been out of state taking pictures of mammals. So I want to make sure I'm in Texas and do a search. And the search, do I have any other searches? No. It's searching. It's thinking. I got some eastern fox, coyotes, porcupine. So I know I didn't do any tag into a project, and this is real easy. So to go batch edit, I know that all of I selected were mammals, just going down. That's what I was looking down to see they're all mammals. Yep, 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 yep. Being as mammals, I want to just send wild. I just there was some captive stuff needs research or needs ID. I don't want to do quality of grade, so okay. I'm gonna do a search again. I'm gonna just do research for now, because most mammals get, yeah, most of these are research grade already. Mammals are real easy to identify compared to other species. So I have research grade mammals and in Texas, and I want to share this with a project, batch edit. I want to do all. So I'm gonna, rather than go me click all these, you could do a select all, and it selected all of them. I wish it would do that for where you could do a shift and drag down. It does not do that here, but up here it says add projects, and I'm gonna look for mammals of Texas. M's. Texas. Oh, on the first one, mammals of Texas. These are deceiving me here. Um, as you can see, it's adding, and it's going. Let's look at it. Now think about this. It's the first 200. These are all mammals. It's thinking about it. So it's going through the whole shooting match. Out of 200, on the first page, 26 were ready for mammals of Texas, and it'll tell you uh, those that didn't qualify uh, and those that did were already added. So mammals of Texas, you can go back and let's say you want to go do this again, you backtrack. It still kept mammals, Texas. That's all in there. And you could hit batch again, edit batch, and go down. I wish it was up. This was up on top. You got to go down to the bottom and go to page 2. Kept you kept that same search. You notice that there are different animals here. I'm still in Texas. Edits, select all. They're all selected. Going back up, go to add projects and see if I don't overshoot this. I could see this real quick. Mammals, mammals right here. You could also remove stuff, but that you got to be very precise. Here's where, you know, I'm probably up to date on that and so forth. All right, so that's basically how you do edits. So they're done to do. That was already done. So that's a good thing. And with that said, that ends I think my slides and my presentation. And thank you. Any questions? And I do know that I had questions from the chat, and those questions were, okay, on metadata, does the metadata uh, add does it that add to place and time? Depends on the camera, and not all cameras have place and time. I do know that my camera on my bird feeder doesn't provide date and time or location. Um, it may provide location, but it's real general. Uh, but it doesn't provide date when I transfer it over. So you always have to look at the camera, what it provides. iPhone metadata may be different from a still camera. So that's just another thing. So how do you join a project? So let me go back a bit here to join a project. Uh, I would join from here. You go join projects and whatever you're looking for. Let's say birds of Texas, and it will come up with a sort. And there's that one with I would not get, but this is birds of Texas. And I'm like, oh, I did. Why I didn't had join on mine, the last one we saw, because I wasn't signed in. You got to sign in to join. So I am in there. I was kind of confused earlier. But you got to join it up here on the right-hand side. You join it, and it may ask you a question uh, about joining, whether you want the curator to know or to add you automatically. Curators can add birds to a project if you give them that right. Okay, so you can tell it's all of Texas and so forth. So that's one way. This is a traditional project, so uh, that you could do. Also, do you how do you share? Hmm, I don't know that. Question is there. How do you share? Okay, so share here on your iPhone. If you see save on your iPhone when you do an observation, uh, that means your settings, go to settings and automatic upload. When you automatic upload, you could now send it to, it should be, uh, if you swipe down a little, it'll start sending those automatically. And then once you come back, any observations after that will go to share mode. I believe that's what the question was. Uh, with that said, I don't see any more questions on the chat. So thank you, everyone. Hopefully this was helpful. I do know that there are some identification Zoom calls coming up that we're going to be doing through City Nature Challenge team. Uh, and we're trying to get more advanced training on iNaturalist. Send me uh, uh, questions, comments, remarks. You can find me on iNaturalist email, Peter Joseph, if you haven't figured that one out. Let me just go there real quick, and you could email me through here. There is a mailing system here and where you could actually send, if you know the person's name, uh, you go to you could create a mailbox and send them information. So I do read this because this is kind of separate, and this is good to know. And you could send other users that you know through here. But be very cautious if you don't know that person. Uh, Try to look up their information before talking to them. I have got some solicited stuff in here that were kind of bizarre, but be aware. But anyway, just like our normal iNaturalist, our normal email stuff. So there are some stuff out there. But here again, hopefully this was very helpful for everyone. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.